Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're launching a physical therapy practice or really any kind of healthcare service that depends on insurance, you're probably focused on, the exciting parts.
Oh, yeah, the equipment, the space, getting the word out.
Exactly. But there's this one critical, timing-sensitive step that, if you get it wrong, can just completely derail your cash flow right out of the gate. And that is insurance credentialing.
That's absolutely right. And, it's not just busy work. It's not just a pile of paperwork. This is your gateway. It's the non-negotiable gateway to getting insurance reimbursement and, frankly, legitimacy.
So what's our mission today?
Today, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to take that whole intimidating stack of forms and turn it into a strategic roadmap. You need to understand this process, really understand it, not just for compliance, but because the timing is everything. It's the key to accelerating your cash flow.
So you can actually have revenue coming in when you open the doors.
Precisely. And the American Physical Therapy Association, the APTA, they've said that being in network with insurance is one of the top factors for whether patients can even get to you.
So if you're not credentialed, you're basically invisible to most of your potential patients.
You're cutting off a huge chunk of your market.
Okay, so since the stakes are so high, let's break down the why here. Beyond just getting paid, what makes credentialing the absolute foundation for a PT clinic?
Well, I like to think of it as a three-legged stool. You've got revenue, reach, and trust.
Okay.
On the revenue side, it's simple. Without credentialing, you cannot legally bill insurance, period. So that immediately limits who you can treat and, of course, what you can earn.
And the reach part, I assume that's about referrals.
That's it, exactly. Physicians, they almost always prefer referring to providers who are already credentialed. It just makes everything smoother for their patient. If you're not on the roster for, say, a major insurer, you're just not going to get those referrals. You're invisible to those networks.
And that third leg, trust, you mentioned. That sounds like the compliance piece.
Yeah.
What's the real goal of the government making everyone do this?
Right, so compliance, it goes way beyond just ticking a box. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, they mandate this to make sure that only qualified, legitimate providers are the ones delivering care that's being paid for by insurance. It's a safeguard.
A safeguard against what exactly? Fraud?
Yeah, fraud and abuse prevention, primarily. It protects the payers, and it protects the patients by confirming that the business getting these funds is, trustworthy and actually qualified.
Okay, so let's get into the real challenge for our listener. Let's say I'm a PT leaving a big hospital system. I'm going to start my own clinic. What makes this whole process so different and so much more complex now that I'm on my own?
That is the core distinction. It's the thing most new owners just completely overlook.
Okay.
If you were just joining an existing clinic, you'd probably only need to do your individual provider credentialing.
Right.
Getting you linked to the clinic's existing contracts.
Right, they've already done the heavy lifting.
Exactly. But when you launch a brand new practice, you have to do both. You have to credential the facility, the business itself, and all the individual providers working there.
So it's double the work, or even more.
It's exponential work. You're now dealing with entity paperwork, site inspections, individual licenses for everyone.
Wow.
And that dual requirement, it dramatically increases the documentation and, this is the critical part, it extends the processing times.
And you mentioned something else, contract negotiations.
Yeah, you're not just getting approved. You're initiating payer contracts from scratch. You're setting your reimbursement rates for the very first time.
Which is a whole other layer of
A
complexity.
huge one. And it directly impacts your bottom line. This is why trying to do it all alone without a really strict timeline is so risky.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The timing trap. We know it takes a long time. What is the standard time frame we need to be planning for?
You have to prepare for a long wait. A lot of the major payers, and especially Medicare, they can take anywhere from 90 to 180 days.
90 to, so 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months, yeah, just to process these new enrollments. And this massive window is why that timing becomes the single most important strategic variable.
Okay, so walk me through a scenario. I open my doors January 1st. I see 50 patients that week. But I didn't submit my paperwork until, say, January 15th. What's the real consequence of that 6-month delay?
It's a devastating cash flow crisis. That's what it is. A new business runs on really thin margins.
You're counting on that initial income.
You're counting on it to cover rent, salaries, utilities. If you have to wait 180 days for that money, you're funding all of it out of your own pocket. A lot of clinics just can't survive that.
And this leads right into the two big mistakes people make. Let's start with submitting too early. I wouldn't have thought that was a problem.
It seems like the safe thing to do, right? But it has its own risks. For one, if you submit 6 months out, some of your documents, like your malpractice insurance, could actually expire before they finish processing it.
Oh, wow.
But the more common issue is the site visit. If a payer shows up to do a mandatory site visit and your clinic is still under construction or your sign isn't up,
You're not compliant.
you're not compliant, and they might require a complete reinspection, which starts the clock all over again, or they could just reject the application outright.
Okay, so too early is dangerous. And we already know too late means this cash flow gap. So how do we find the sweet spot? What's the compromise?
The best strategy is all about preparation combined with very precise timing at the end. You have to start gathering all your documents, your licenses, your NPI, all the business papers, at least 1 month before you plan to open.
So you have everything ready to go.
Exactly. But for the final actions, the things that actually start the payer's clock, like submitting the full application or scheduling that site visit, you want to aim for a window of just 1 to 2 weeks before your official opening day.
1 to 2 weeks. That seems very specific. Why that window?
Because it ensures your facility is 100% finalized, it's ready for any inspection, the lights are on, the equipment's in place, and it also maximizes the chance that that 90 to 180-day clock ends as close as possible to when you actually start seeing patients and billing for services.
So you're minimizing the gap between doing the work and getting that first crucial payment.
That's the entire game. It's all about shrinking that gap.
Okay, let's move into the practical roadmap then. Let's talk about the 5 core steps to build, as you call it, a bulletproof file that avoids these delays.
Right. And you know, when an application gets kicked back, I'd say 90% of the time, it's because of something really simple.
Look what?
Incomplete info. A name that doesn't quite match the license, a missing signature, an expired insurance certificate, really basic stuff. So having a system is vital.
Okay, what are the top 5 tips from the source material?
Okay, first, and we'll just reiterate this because it's so important. Prepare documents early, but time your submissions carefully. You lock in that 1 to 2 week pre-opening target for everything final.
Got it. What's number 2?
Number 2, build that comprehensive documentation file. I mean, a single organized digital folder with everything current. Your National Provider Identifier, or NPI.
Which is your billing number, right?
Your unique billing number, yes. Then your PT licenses, your malpractice insurance, your tax ID and business entity papers, and all your education records. And make sure every single document uses the exact same spelling of every name and every address.
Let's clarify that quickly. NPI versus tax ID.
Yeah.
I bet people mix those up.
They do, all the time. The NPI identifies you, the provider, for billing. The tax ID identifies the business itself to the IRS. Payers need both. They have to know who to pay and what legal entity they're paying.
Makes sense. Okay, what's tip 3?
Tip 3 is huge for commercial insurance. Leverage CAQH ProView.
CAQH.
It stands for the Council for Affordable Quality Healthcare. ProView is basically this centralized data hub for the whole industry. A lot of commercial payers just pull your data directly from there.
So it saves you from filling out the same form 100 times?
100 times, yeah. But here's the catch. If you let your profile get stale, say you renew your malpractice insurance, but you forget to update CAQH.
No.
The system can just automatically flip your status to non-participating for multiple payers, and you might not even get a direct notification. You just start getting denials.
And then your revenue just stops.
It stops cold. And it can take weeks to fix. That's why you have to set a quarterly reminder on your calendar, log in, check your data, and reattest that it's all current.
That's a great practical tip. Okay, number 4.
Fourth, track credentialing like a true business project. This isn't a one-and-done thing. You'll have revalidation deadlines, renewals. It's constant.
So you need a system.
You need a tracking system, a spreadsheet, whatever. It needs to have application dates, the expected turnaround time, payer contact info, and most importantly, the credentialing end dates for every single payer. This is what prevents that massive disruption from a laxed credential 2 years down the line.
And finally, for the new owner who's juggling a million things, do they really have to do this all themselves?
And that's tip 5. Don't feel like you have to go it alone. If you can afford it, partnering with a professional credentialing company is often the fastest, lowest stress path.
They know all the little details.
They know the payer-specific quirks, they advise on timing, they coordinate the site visits, and they handle the appeals when things go wrong. They just turn this whole timing equation into a manageable checklist.
That tracking system idea is so important because, like you said, a lapse 2 years from now feels exactly the same as submitting late on day 1.
It's an unexpected halt to your cash flow.
It's risk management.
It is ongoing risk management. That's a perfect way to put it.
Right, let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about some of the more specialized considerations, some of the hidden operational dangers. What if a clinic wants to focus on a niche service, like pelvic health or sports rehab? Are there extra hurdles?
Yes, often. And this is a common pitfall. Some payers require additional certifications or specific documentation if you plan to bill for those more advanced treatments.
So they want to see proof you're qualified for that specific thing.
Exactly. They might need to see your certification for certain spinal manipulations or specific training in pelvic health. You have to research that up front to make sure those codes will be covered.
What about telehealth? That's huge now.
Mhm.
Are the rules the same for virtual care?
Definitely not the same. Many payers have completely separate telehealth enrollment rules.
Well, of course they do.
Yeah. It can include location-specific licensing, making sure you're licensed where the patient is, and totally different reimbursement policies than in-person care.
So you might have to fill out a whole separate application just for telehealth.
You very well might. You have to verify that your credentialing explicitly covers virtual services.
That brings up a huge operational question about staffing.
Yeah.
Let's say I hire a physical therapist assistant, a PTA. Can a delay in my main facility credentialing stop me from putting them to work?
Absolutely. And this is one of the biggest hidden dangers to your clinic's capacity. A PTA or an aide, they often bill their services under the clinic's main contract and NPI. If the facility's credentialing is held up, you can't add them to the roster.
So their services can't be billed.
Cannot be billed. So your clinic's patient volume is immediately capped no matter how busy you are because you can't use your full staff.
Just to confirm the structure one more time. For a small group practice, say with 3 PTs, does the group credentialing always have to come first?
Generally, yes. The legal entity, the facility, that contract has to be in place first. Once the group practice itself is credentialed, then you enroll the individual providers to practice under that established contract.
Okay. And the worst case scenario, you get rejected. What happens then? Is it time to panic?
No, don't panic, but be meticulous. A rejection is rarely the final word.
Okay.
The key is to immediately review the reason they gave you for the denial.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they'll let you resubmit with corrected documentation. You just fix the error. But, and this is crucial, document every single communication. Who you spoke to, when, what they said. You'll need that paper trail if you have to file a formal appeal.
This has been an incredibly useful breakdown. It really seems like the complexity of the paperwork is almost secondary to the strategy of the timing.
That is the core lesson. Credentialing feels like a timing landmine, but if you manage that 90 to 180-day window, by preparing early and then submitting everything for final verification just before you open in that 1 to 2 week sweet spot, you can turn it into a predictable process.
So what does this all mean for you listening? The biggest risk here, financially and operationally, it isn't the paperwork itself. It's the ripple effect that bad timing creates. If you can't bill insurance, you can't use your full staff, and your capacity on day one is just severely limited.
It creates a choke point on your growth before you've even started.
It really does. And this leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. Since we know credentialing delays can actively restrict which new billable staff you can hire, like PTAs, and which specialized services you can even offer, like pelvic health, how early does your real business planning need to start? How far in advance of opening your doors do you need to be thinking about this to prevent these limitations from defining your clinic's initial capacity and scope? That decision really dictates your clinic's immediate future. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.